There is one thing that Morant does that allows him to jump higher than any other NBA player. Every elite jumper in volleyball also does this, and I also do this. My name is Isaiah Rivera, and I have a world record 50.5-inch max vertical. And the thing that I'm talking about today is having a long split on the penultimate step. In today's video, I'm gonna explain to you what this even means and how to apply it to your jumps so that you can jump higher. Doing this correctly has the potential to increase your vertical instantly. I'm talking about within 15 to 30 minutes. No, this is not a lie. I am actually telling you the truth. This is quick gains that you can get from changing this. Penultimate stands for second to last because it's the second to last step on a 2-foot jump approach. It's characterized by a really long step that most jumpers take right before they take off. The purpose of the penultimate step is to lower you. The reason that you want to be low is because you can maximize impulse. Impulse is a physics term, and there is a direct correlation between impulse and how high you can jump. This is the equation for impulse. The more force you can apply over a longer time interval, the more impulse you're gonna create, AKA the higher you're going to jump. To see this in action, just look at this volleyball player. Look how low he's squatting down, and then he's flying up with an insane vertical jump off a standstill. Another great jumper that does this is Chi. You can also see guys like Jonathan Clark and Jordan Kilgannon do it in their standing jumps. And the reason they get so low is because they're maximizing impulse, right? They can spend more time applying force into the ground. Now, a 2-foot jump is different from a standing jump because you have a lot more speed and momentum heading into the approach. If you squat down too low, you're just gonna lose all that momentum and you're not gonna be able to apply as high of a force. This is where the penultimate step comes in. The penultimate step allows you to lower your body without wasting time, and you're still able to apply those insanely high peak forces that is gonna create a massive jump. However, most people don't have a long split on their penultimate. I actually did not used to have a long split on my penultimate. Just look at all these jumps from when I was around 15 to 16 years old. I show these clips to show you that it is possible to change your penultimate. I remember the day that I discovered this, I actually jumped like 3 or 4 inches higher, literally within 10 to 15 minutes. And I hit my first windmill that day. However, most people are very stubborn. Some of you might try this out and actually jump lower. If this is you, my best piece of advice is to stick with it. Keep forcing yourself to take a long split on the penultimate, and your body is going to get stronger and be able to handle the higher forces that are going to be experienced from this long penultimate. What I've seen is that the athletes who don't jump higher are usually the ones that are not as coordinated and are also not as strong. Strength is important because a longer penultimate is going to create even more momentum, and you're going to be in a lower jumping position. If you're not very strong in a deep squat, and if you haven't jumped for years and years, it's likely you're not gonna be able to handle those forces. But by forcing yourself to take that long penultimate, you're gonna create adaptations in your body, right? The forces are gonna be super high, and it's gonna force your body to adapt and get stronger so that you can handle that longer penultimate. I actually coach an athlete whose name is Jaden Suarez. This is what his penultimate looked like before he signed up for THP. It was horrible, right? Super short penultimate. But he is a case of someone that stuck with it, and he actually didn't see results instantly. However, look how high he's jumping now. He gained 3 to 5 inches in a month after working on a long penultimate that entire month, and now it's to the point where it feels natural. He doesn't have to think about doing a long penultimate anymore, it just happens because he put in the reps, it's part of his muscle memory now, and now he gets his highest jumps as a result of doing a long penultimate. By the way, if you want me to look specifically at your penultimate, if you sign up for THP, you can get on a group call once a week with me, and I'll analyze your jump technique in real time and give you useful feedback that you can use to jump higher. If you're interested in this, go to THPstrength.com and sign up. There's currently a sale going on. It's right there at the top of the website if you want to check it out and take advantage of it. There's also free resources in the description if you want to try a week of THP for free. As a rebuttal, when I usually explain the benefits of a long penultimate, people will bring up athletes that jump high despite having a short penultimate. However, my response to that is you don't want to look at the outliers and copy them. You want to look at the elite athletes and see what the mean is. What are 99% of elite pro dunkers doing in terms of their approach? And if you look at most athletes with a 48 to a 51-inch vertical, they usually have a long split on their penultimate. By not attacking this early in your jump career, you're going to be limiting yourself. You're essentially lowering your ceiling. What your max vertical is that you're capable of, you're just gonna be lowering that. So hopefully I just convinced you on why you should change your penultimate and what the benefits of having a longer penultimate is. So now let's break down Ja Morant's penultimate step and see what positions he hits, and I'll teach you exactly how to hit those positions in your jump. One big thing that I look at on a penultimate step is the knee. Your knee should be behind your hip at toe off of the penultimate step. You don't wanna over exaggerate this cue, right? Ideally, the knee is just behind the hip. You don't wanna over push on the penultimate. However, if you have a short penultimate, you might have to cue over push. Second thing, you don't wanna be leading with the foot. You don't wanna be kicking the foot out and overreaching in front of you. Instead, you wanna be pushing your knee and hip forward. A position that I look for is the foot in line with the knee at toe off of the penultimate step. If you do this correctly, you should feel a stretch right here at the rectus femoris. Now, let's look at the rolling action of the penultimate. This foot is called the support leg of the penultimate. And the rolling action I'm talking about is the heel to toe action as the support leg hits the ground and then goes to toe off. This part of the penultimate is arguably the most important part because it's where you lower the most. Look at the beginning of the approach, right? My head is essentially staying the same level, and then as I roll through the support leg of the penultimate, that's where I really get low. What you wanna do is you wanna land heel first, plant this foot directly under your center of mass. A common mistake is this. Athletes will plant the foot in front of their center of mass. You don't want that. This is gonna cause braking forces. This is the direction that the forces are going. You're gonna brake. You don't want that. A good approach jump has an acceleration. So you wanna increase your speed as you're rolling through. A very common mistake athletes make here is they stay very high and they jump up into their penultimate. This is wrong. You wanna imagine you're in a very low ceiling as you're in that quarter squat position at support leg of the penultimate. And as you take your penultimate, you don't wanna hit your head on the ceiling. A very key position here is I think about driving my knee into the ground. Your knee should be in the exact same position that your back leg is in a reverse lunge. So it goes from quarter squat, knee goes down to the ground, and then as you hit that lowest position, that's when you push while throwing your hip and knee forward. Finally, we want to cover a lot of distance on the penultimate step because it's gonna give your block foot leg time to recover, and ideally you plant your last 2 feet as close together as possible. Common mistake is athletes will reach forward with their front leg, not take a very big penultimate, and then their plant leg hits the ground, and then it takes forever for the block foot to hit the ground. They're leaking a lot of energy here, and it's not an efficient approach. Now let's get into some drills to learn the penultimate step. What I want you to do is take a video, a sideways angle, horizontally filmed so you can view your entire approach of your jump. And I want you to notice where you are planting the support leg of the penultimate step. Now what you need to do is you need to put a marker on the basketball court farther than that spot. Now I want you to notice where you're jumping from and put a marker at that spot. You're still going to jump from that spot, and you're gonna take your penultimate at the marker that's farther away. What this is gonna do, it's gonna force you to take a longer penultimate. Most people, when I tell them to take the penultimate step from a farther spot, what happens is they just still short the penultimate and jump from a farther distance. However, the marker that's under the hoop is gonna force you to still jump from the same spot, and because the other marker is so far, it's gonna force a long penultimate. This is the exact method that Jaden Suarez used to lengthen his penultimate. Now, I want you to run in at a slow speed, slower than what you normally come in at. And the reason that is because by taking a longer penultimate, you're gonna force more acceleration. So if you go in at your normal speed and you take a longer penultimate, you're probably gonna be going in way too fast and you're not gonna be able to handle all that momentum. So slow down. I suggest doing about a 5-step approach. Really focus on planting that support leg of the penultimate at that first marker, then take that big penultimate and jump straight up and down. What you don't wanna do is blow through your approach. So you don't wanna cover a lot of distance when you jump. You wanna take a long penultimate and then try to go straight up. If you do this correctly, it's gonna feel like you hit a ramp that takes you straight into the air. Do that over and over again. Record every single jump. That way you can see what mistakes you're making. I highly suggest finding an elite jumper that has your same plant style and then comparing your penultimate steps frame by frame. Something looks different, change it. Find a cue, just one cue at a time, and then see if that cue changes your jump so that it looks like that elite jumper. And then just repeat that process over and over again. It's gonna take thousands of reps if you're not used to a long penultimate to have it feel natural. So you have to be very patient. The thing that the athletes that make the most progress have, that athletes that end up quitting don't have, is persistence and a willingness to learn. You have to be persistent so that you can just go in and day out and continue working, but you also have to be willing to learn and look at your mistakes and change them. Doesn't matter if you see what mistakes you're making if the changes are not working. And if the changes still are not happening, you know where to find me so I can help you.